Thanks for staying up later. Martin Mull is with us, no stranger to the talk show form as either guest or host. Is Barth Gimbel missed on the talk show scene these days? I mean, I know the repeats are still out there of Fernwood Tonight and America Tonight, but where would he fit into this current mix?
Well, he'd probably be redundant with some of the people that are actually on. I'm thinking of the afternoon genre, and certainly not the late night. But yeah, I in my travels out and about, I don't think literally a day goes by that somebody doesn't come up and say, boy, I really miss Fernwood Tonight. That was a great show. Something about being ahead of its time, or it was a cult show, which is, of course, is a kiss of death to be a cult anything, you know, which means like 30 people really like you. But I think he's missed, yeah.
Was he modeled after anybody, or was he a conglomeration, or what?
More of a conglomeration as far as the actual talk shows of hosts of the time, i.e. Carson, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Dinah. This takes it back a bit. But it also, at that time, or just prior to that, I was touring a lot, doing music and so forth and so on. And you go back to the hotel in East Overshoe, someplace, and you turn on local cable access channel, 56, and there would be somebody there with pretensions that would just be enormous, and his guests would be the water commissioner and maybe his brother-in-law, but he would think he was doing the Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, and he would have all the pomposity of a big style entertainer. Those people that worked at the piano lounge at Holiday Inns with the fishbowl with their own $5 to start the ball rolling, those kind of people were the models.
Thank you, dejected parents. You're wonderful sports. And right now, well, I think you guessed it, we're going to go to a tap dance. Actually, this is a first, a modest inspiration of my own conception. I did this myself. It's a marriage of the popular dance form of tap, you've heard of that, and the classical music form of classical music. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard Palmer, our miracle pianist with that wonderful, wonderful laid-back style. He'll be playing Mozart's Sonata No. 16 while in his iron lung. And baby Irene, the child star we saw earlier, she'll be tap dancing in an act that I like to call, try this, The Muse and the Machine.
Now, Barth had his own pretensions, but he would also puncture the guest, right? He would say after a while, well, that's all well and good. Boring as hell. Back after this. You know, he just cut it off.
Oh, absolutely. One time, in fact, I don't think this is talking out of school, because a recently retired talk show host once said to me that this was
an eminence in the talk show world?
Yes, an eminence. That this was a line he always, at times, wished he could use. And it was one time when Barth just turned to his guest and just said, but of course, this is only interesting to you. We'll be right back. and that was his attitude.
Did it get to the point where recognizable names, people of quality, wanted to be on the show, and you had to tell them, no, unless we can think of a specific gambit for you to be on the show, it doesn't make any sense for anybody really good to be on this show?
Thanks for the qualifier. They're really good.
I mean, other than the staples of the show. Yeah, I mean, as a guest.
Myself and Mr. Willard, of course, the redoubtable Fred Willard, who is one of the geniuses of our time. But, yeah, that was a problem. And what happened was when we reincarnated, we had done Fernwood Tonight, and we came back as America Tonight. And for that, for the express reason that we had so many people of the high recognizability ilk, that we had to figure out a way to get them in, because there would be no way they could be just coincidentally in Fernwood, Ohio.
Right.
So we relocated in El Tacoma, California.
Well, that helps.
Unquote, quote unquote, damn near the airport. So we were claiming that these were people on their way somewhere, so which enabled us to get the Carol Burnett's and the Melissa Manchesters and Robin Williams and Charlton Hestons and people like that to come in.
Let me give you a clue, at least. This lady has had a weekly television show for 11 years.
Whoa.
Does she have red hair? Huh? I heard someone say...
Yes.
Lucille Ball! Is it? I love it. Lucy?
No.
Caramba? No? Okay, I guess not. Happy wouldn't know anybody that big anyway.
How close to real can anything be on a talk show? I mean, the laughs are real, but is there always a heavy layer of artifice there that makes you feel uncomfortable?
Well, there's the idea of enforced gaiety, which was an expression a road manager of mine used a long time ago, and I love it as an expression.
The armed forces face that now, I believe.
Yes, exactly. But it's like your next guest may not be someone you want to talk to at all, or that you could care, two whits about.
Yeah.
And you also find yourself, as I just said, two whits, you find yourself changing what you probably would have said anyway, calling audibles. And it's not absolutely natural. I don't think, for instance, especially with the afternoon shows, that it's totally natural to have that many cross-dressers who beat their mothers and eat their young on one stage at one time. So I think it is forced, yeah.
You know what's something you find out hosting a talk show? It's different than a strictly journalistic thing where, let's say if I were interviewing the commissioner of the National Football League, even if I more or less like the guy, if there's an issue out there, you can come right after him. You can do it that way. Or if you've got a satiric format, you can go after anybody you want. But it's hard, even if you have complete disdain for somebody, it's hard to look them right in the eye and just diss them completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm restraining myself with you.
Yeah, you're doing a wonderful job.
No, you know what I mean. I mean, there are people that you would take off after, the types of people you would mock on Fernwood Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you sat in on the Tonight Show, you would hope maybe not to book those people. But inevitably, because of volume, you have to have some of them. They sneak in, and then what the hell do you do?
Well, now, when I hosted the Tonight Show, I always was given, and it was only maybe a dozen times or so. This was before Jay and Joan and everybody else came in, back when George Carlin would do it and so forth.
Yeah.
And I was always given veto power. Just in case they said, so-and-so is going to be on the show, and I go, geez, that's the guy I had to fight with. I can't do that. So I was allowed to veto. But still, there were people where you would say, yeah, I guess so, I guess I'm as interested in tap dancing as the next guy. Bring him on.
So you never had a moment where the person you're looking at is someone who, in another circumstance, you would just mock mercilessly, and you had to make chit-chat with them?
If I have, I think I have successfully repressed it, or simply gotten through it, or I'm in denial.
Have you run into anybody who, for whatever reason, all the various shows you've done, really had their feelings hurt and said, Martin, I'm a fan of yours, and then all of a sudden you ripped me and made me feel bad?
No.
Good.
No, not really. I don't think so. I try to be, as nice as I possibly can, I guess. Or if I am dishing someone, the style of dishing them is not to come on and just go right for the throat and go, oh, nice socks, Bob, or something like that. It's what I'd call faint praise, which is to say, really good.
Yeah.
And then let them later on figure it out. And usually, if people are of the sort that deserve it, they'll never figure it out.
That's why I'm everyone that I have ever loved. All a rolling you want. I'm all love the women that I have had in my life. The actress, the stewardess, the nurse. And I'm right there when I need me, and I'm not when I don't. Just the same as my sweet Annie was. I don't care if you're packing your suitcases, girl, 'cause I'm twice the man that you was. Yes, sir, I'm everyone that I have ever loved. All rolling that you want. I'm all of the women that I have had in my life. My sister, my aunt, my grandma, and I ain't done.
We're back with Martin Mull. Was there any one moment on The Tonight Show that stands out, those dozen or so times that you hosted, where things went remarkably wrong or remarkably right?
Well, this would have to be remarkably right. In fact, my wife usually always makes me make my own decisions about anything in the business, etc., and she's certainly there to help and advise. But I remember once taking a nap in the afternoon. I heard her on the phone. She said, absolutely, he would love him as a guest. Boom. I hung up, and I thought, boy, this has to be, Jesus or Lincoln or somebody, or she wouldn't make this statement. And it was close. It was B.B. King. whom I consider to be just one of the giants of the musical world. And he came on, and after he did his tune, it was set up that he would come over to the panel, and I would talk to him briefly, and finally I asked him the question. I said, how do you feel about overweight white guys who have been stealing your licks for years and buying homes with the proceeds? And he said, I'm all for it. In fact, Lucille even sent along a pick, and he gave me a pick, and the two of us got up and did a duet, which was only supposed to be 8 bars long. It ended up being about 72 bars long. It was like a full-fledged blues with the two of us trading fours back, do-do-do-do, and go dee-da-da-da-da-da, you know. I think that was the highest. That really was, you know.
You're a legitimate musician, which I guess most people know, but some might not. You used to be in a band that opened for the Doors, right?
At one point, I was in college rather, in a band called the Night People. It was one of the cleverer names to ever come down the pike. And we played, it was a cover band doing top 40 stuff. And at one point we did open for the Doors. And that was back, I was just telling someone the other day, in the age when, this is old, but when, like, for instance, the Beatles would set up their amps across the stage, so everyone was like a country mile from the next person. Remember that old setup? And then you'd have this stack of Marshall amps behind you, and all you could hear was you. And then when I went home that night, particularly, I was sitting in my little $35 a month overpriced apartment in Providence, Rhode Island, in an easy chair such as this. In fact, this really makes me feel at home here. And I brought out the guitar and a bottle of beer or something, and somebody else sat in the other easy chair, and we sat there and played, and it was music all of a sudden. It was, and I thought, maybe the catalyst here is furniture. And so from then on, when I had my own act and went out, I always took my own living room furniture with me. I put it in the back of the Pinto wagon.
It's a little clumsy, but
it was
whatever
clumsy.
Works.
And I took my chair, my end table, I had a lamp, I had an ashtray, I had my own special glass, and which I would fill regularly at those days, and that was how I traveled, and it worked. It was nice having furniture with me.
This is legit.
Absolutely.
You had the furniture.
Absolutely.
Mr. Martin Mull and his fabulous furniture. Okay?
Pretty good, huh? Well, it should be good. 'Cause I've been playing guitar now for 14 years. I got music in me coming out my ears. But you ought to know the fact is I'm this good because I practice. No, my talent ain't as big as it appears.
Your artwork is also important to you, and I read your artwork. Sounds like something you do in kindergarten. You know, here's Martin's artwork. It's lovely. The shapes are so creative.
Yeah, here's something for the dorm,
room of a museum.
Well, that was a long time ago. Yeah. Since then, the art has gotten very, very serious and almost full time. But Museum of Fine Arts. I was living in Boston at the time, and with some good friends and my then wife, and we were all artists, and we realized there was a museum we would probably not be asked to be in because we were A, alive, and B, young and unknown. Right. And there was a room with no art. Well, or I'll be art in a minute. And we sent out announcements on Charmin, and telling people be there at 8 o'clock sharp. It was the night the museum was open late, and about 5 of 8, we just stormed the bathroom and had the stuff smuggled in on the inside of our jackets and so forth and so on. We just taped it up real quickly. We had about 300 or 400 people down there, and there were people still there for the reasons God intended. You know, they're coming out of the stalls and wondering what the hell was going on because there are television cameras and so forth. And it was very well received.
So if the art is close to full time for you now, Do you view yourself more as an artist than as an actor? I mean, after all, you got the role in the Jackie Thomas Show. You've done the stuff on Roseanne.
Absolutely. I like to think of both as being what I do. The fortunate thing is the acting jobs that I have, which I'm very happy with. I love working on the Jackie Thomas Show, and I love working on Roseanne if I ever get back over there. Allow me enough free time to pursue the painting full blast. And I'm in like 3 or 4 museum shows this month, and a big show over in Seoul, Korea, and so forth. Recently had a lithograph picked up by the Metropolitan Museum in New York for their permanent print collection. So it's going very seriously and very good for me right now.
How much does your, you're involved in show business, but obviously you have a little bit of disdain for it too. How much does that inform the executive, the TV executive that you play on the Jackie Thomas Show?
Well, first of all, I'm interested in where you think I have disdain for show business. Is it that apparent, or
don't we all?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Doesn't any thinking person, to some extent?
It is not rocket science by any means, and someone once said, I think it was Robert Mitchum, I could be very wrong, saying how difficult can it be to be, like, for instance, a movie actor when you realize one of the biggest money makers ever was a dog, you know, Lassie
right.
films and Rin Tin Tin. But there's a bit of disdain for the duplicity and the chicanery that attends some of the decision making, and that goes into the playing of Doug Talbot on the Jackie Thomas Show.
I mean, this guy's a complete sycophant if he has to be. Kicks around the people he can get away with kicking around.
A jerk's jerk.
Well, you know, personally, I love the B word. I just don't think it's going to fly past the censors.
Nobody tries to stifle my creative genius. Is that clear?
Clear as rain. Jerry, we have ourselves a problem. We have got to stifle this creative genius.
I'll tell you what, you stifle, I'm going to lunch.
No, let me take you. I know a nice place. You don't mind telling it's your birthday, do you?
Interestingly, on Roseanne, you played a guy who happens to be a homosexual, but not in some stereotypical fashion. This guy isn't prancing around or doing easy, get a laugh with a gay stereotype type of thing.
No. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I was more than happy to do it, because I wasn't about to mince across the stage and make fun of people and this, that, and the other thing. I don't mind ever making fun of people. I think anything is make funnable enough about, but, boy, that was awkward. But to do it in a cheap way, or in a way that we've seen before, makes no sense whatsoever, in an unimaginative way. So I was real happy to do that. And I also realized that, you know, I'm acting, and people will know that. You know, no one really believed for a second that Eddie Murphy was Gumby, you know.
Oh, maybe just for a split second.
Split.
That kind of ties into the early role you had in television. Garth Gimble, Barth Gimble's dastardly twin brother, who was a wife-beater on Mary Hartman.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, that wasn't just a role to you. I mean, it kind of affected you personally to play such a despicable guy.
Well, exactly. It was my first real acting job that I'd ever had. I'd only been a stand-up or sit-down comedian musician up until then. But I thought, you know, Mary Hartman is an extremely funny show, very wry, very subtle. There's no laugh track, and it's my kind of stuff, you know, that if there was a modern-day version of the Bob and Ray sensibility, it's probably Mary Hartman, and I love that kind of... So what a great place to start, and I can hopefully be funny. And the role I get is of a wife abuser, and I must say, out of survival and nervousness and terror, I did everything I could to find something funny about that. There's nothing funny about it. Nothing. And so it was really a plunge in the icy water to try to learn to act in a situation which I found no humor whatsoever, and then goose the edges to whenever there was a non-wife abusing moment, try to make that as funny as possible. It was tough.
You want to know what your problem is, kiddo? I'll tell you. You want to be a martyr.
Oh, shut up.
What? Look, I could kill you.
Go ahead.
You want me to?
Why not?
You see? That's what I said. You're a martyr.
Look, I don't care what you do to me. Just give me 5 minutes and let's talk this out to save our marriage and to save our lives.
Okay. You want 5 minutes?
Yeah.
You got it. 5 minutes, then. Starting now. Go.
Garth, you are not really going to time it, are you?
4 minutes and 52 seconds, Pat. Start talking. Boy, these digitals are great.
What kind of responses do you get to that character?
Well, generally, as an actor, I got good responses, but there was one instance that I recall that was, again, quite terrifying. I was doing some promo for the show, and I was going around to, and I think an album and stuff like that at the time. I was in Chicago, and the DJ said, "We got a letter here for you addressed to Garth Gimble. I guess that's you." And I said, "Yeah." And I looked at the thing, and it said, "Dear Mr. Gimble, I wonder if you could come and speak to our men's club, because you seem to be, of all the people on television, the only one that really knows how to handle women." At which point I just felt like an ice ball go right down my spine, etc. And it was very frightening in that you realize that sometimes when you show certain things on television, you're showing them in terms of almost like they say on some things like, don't try this at home. You know, this is not a good thing, but we're showing it to you because it exists.
Who's kidding who here? We ran the last commercial. We come back here for 5 seconds just to finish it out. Martin Mull, see you later.
Bye.
There's a new dance and it's in our town. Hey, it's the hottest thing around. It ain't hard, no, there's nothing to it. So come on, everybody, won't you do it? Do the nothing.
Thanks so much. We really do have to go.